Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of In the Prog Seat. It's Tuesday night. We've got Team A, Chuck Alvarez. Everybody raise your hands. Chuck Alvarez, George Lamie. We've got Anthony Ferraro. And special guest on tonight's episode, longtime Sea of Tranquility personality, writer, and frequent guest here alongside me, Mr. Steven Reid, all the way from Scotland. We've got him up late tonight. What's happening, everybody? How you doing?
Can't make too much noise.
It's after midnight over in Scotland, so just so everybody knows. But Steven's on vacation this week, and he's like, I'm going to try and make myself available to you guys, and we've been wanting to get him on this show for quite a while. So today's topic is favorite prog rock, prog metal singers, right? So I've asked everybody to kind of take stock of all the bands in prog rock, prog metal, what have you, and some of the singers you really, really like. The 5 guys that do it for you more than anybody else. And, you know, you can take into account singing ability, songwriting ability, stage presence, you know, whatever. It doesn't really matter. You love who you love. So everybody's got 5. We probably have some honorable mentions at the end, and we're going to let our esteemed guest, Mr. Reid, kick us off with his number 5.
Okay, well, at number 5 for me, I'm going for the singer of Saga. So that's Michael Sadler.
Mm-hmm.
So I just love the way he sings. You know, I love the expression in his voice. He's integral to what that band do, which has been proved when he's not been there. The fans didn't like it. Nobody really liked it. I quite liked it, but that doesn't count. So, favourite song?
It counts.
Well, it did to me anyway. Put it that way. I thought it counted, but nobody else seemed to. I gave. Was it The Human Condition? Was that what it was called?
Yeah, that's pretty good album.
Yeah, I gave it a glowing review, and everyone else went, no, I don't think so. So it didn't really count. No. But there you go. I liked it, and I liked him. However, I like Michael Sadler a lot. So, favourite album? Worlds Apart. Excuse the old battered copy here that's been played a million times and more. Favourite song? I've gone for On the Air Tonight from, I think, the underrated Network album. I just think that he has just so many different tones and levels in that song. He's really contained at certain points, but he leads the song through certain sections as well. And he's just integral there and throughout. And I don't know. He's one of those singers as well that you hear his voice, it's immediately him. He's not trying to ape anybody else, which I think is a real strength and quite unusual. There were a couple of guys who were close to being picked for me, but they probably fall into that, probably too influenced by somebody else, you know, kind of area that I didn't go for them. So that's my first choice. That's number 5 for me, Michael Sadler.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, nobody sounds like him.
No,
he's got a very unique vocal style. Yeah, that's a great choice.
Hey, Steven, I get a lot of crap from a lot of my Saga buddies on my Facebook, but that's neither here nor there. But I think one of their most underrated records is Trust. I don't know how you feel about that, but I thought that record was fantastic.
Yeah, I like Trust a lot as well. Yeah, it's another, that era of the band though, it doesn't really seem to be, you know, appreciated in the way that it should be. I think that people very much hark back to, as I've just done as well, to be fair, kind of, you know, the early quarter of the band, and then it began to splinter a bit after that, and styles changed. But yeah, I think that what they did around that area, around Trust, was excellent. Yeah, really good. Yeah, I'll take stick for that as well. Absolutely. I like that album a lot.
I like the latter part of the catalog. I think it's great.
Yeah, really strong, really strong. I'm not quite so sold on the recent acoustic album. I know that's had a lot of, you know, positive reviews. They've done some great work with it, and they've worked really hard at it, but I just can't quite connect with it. I think it's maybe it's me, not them, but it just doesn't quite excite me in the way that I hoped that it would.
Cool.
All
right, Anthony.
Oh, me? Oh, okay. My number 5 is, I'm going with a singer who was discovered probably in the late 70s by one Uncle Frank Zappa, went on to play with Bowie, then joined King Crimson in 1981, and I'm going with Mr. Adrian Belew. This is The Power to Believe from 2003. Here we go in the glare. Adrian's my number 5. I love his Beatle-esque melodies, especially his solo career. But that King Crimson era, I adore. Discipline, Three of a Perfect Pair. But one of my favorite songs by him off Power to Believe is Eyes Wide Open. Just gorgeous vocals. There's just something about his delivery. And as I said on some of his solo albums, he has that Beatle. He writes those Beatle-esque harmonies. Fantastic guitar player. So he's my number 5. And I've seen him about 5 or 6 times. And, he's about 70, 71, and he still sounds fantastic.
Yep. Good choice. Good choice. George.
It's a pick.
All right. My number 5 is from Texas, a band called Shaolin Death Squad. Andrew O'Hearn. The album Intelligent Design is my favorite from them. Maybe I'm way out of step with these guys because I don't really hear anybody talk them up or talk him up. But if your metric is he makes you feel something when he sings, then that's why I went with him. He's not like a big voice, like a huge vocal talent like a Dio or something, but the way he puts his melodies together and a really effective use of effects where it's called for, I think he's the guy for me, number 5, Andrew Hearn.
What band is he from again?
Shaolin Death Squad.
Wow. Okay.
What kind of band are they?
Prog metal.
Prog metal. Okay.
Some say they're like proggy or Faith No More, like Dream Theater-esque. Dream Theater, Faith No More, somewhere in there. I don't know. They don't really sound like anybody, but that's neighborhood.
All right.
They have 5 records.
Cool. I'll have to explore that.
Excellent.
Yeah, notes getting taken there by everybody to go and check them out, I think.
George is our king of pulling out like stuff that he's like the Ryan Scow of this show. It's like if you want something you've never heard before, George has got it, and George
is the man.
Yeah. That's what it's all about, right? Those underground stuff.
Absolutely.
Right?
Wherever it's at.
Yeah. All right, Chuck, what do you got?
All right. My number 5 is Mr. Bungle, California. And the lead singer, Mike Patton, everyone knows of him from Faith No More, Phantomos. Just an amazing singer. Now this guy, can do all types of things with his vocals. It's with Mr. Bungle that I feel that he did most of his best stuff. Although he was great with Faith No More and Phantomos and other bands that he's been with. Mr. Bungle's last album probably was, was their most commercial of the 3. And just an amazing album. All the stuff that he's done on here is just quite amazing. Sweet Charity has like a little pastiche towards like some 60s era pop music, like Beatles pop. And then you have Renter Vertigo, forgive me, and then the Air Conditioned Nightmare. It kind of sounds very similar to something like something kind of strange. The Holy Filament and Goodbye Sober Day. My pick for number 5 is Mike Patton's Mr. Bungle, California.
Yeah, he can even in like one song, he can give you like 5 different styles. Right? He can croon, he can scream, he can do like this vaudeville stuff. I mean, he's like all over the place.
They can rap too.
All right, my number 5, I'm going to go to Sweden. This guy, George and I had a whole side conversation today about, kind of, we didn't give away our picks, but like kind of what directions we were going in. And, this guy, if this was like maybe a decade ago, I wouldn't have even probably considered him for this show. But this band has kind of gone in a new direction about 4 or 5 albums ago. But even before they did that, while they were still primarily known as like a progressive death metal act, this guy had just a fantastic voice when he wanted to sing in a melodic style. And he proved it on the album Damnation by Opeth, which is all just gorgeous, symphonic, atmospheric prog rock, right, for lack of a better term. And ironically, once he kind of got the death metal out of his system, this is kind of the direction they've gone in. They've incorporated classic 70s hard rock and symphonic prog and psychedelia and folk and all that into this very accessible sound where he utilizes that gorgeous clean voice all the time. But I will say back then, I thought he had probably the best death metal growl I'd ever heard. I always loved it. Yeah, I mean, but man, can this guy sing. And, Window Pane in My Time of Need, gorgeous song. And his vocal is just absolutely stunning there. So I've always really liked him no matter how he sings. And I know a lot of people kind of have lamented their shift away from extreme metal. And I felt the same way at first, but now that we're like all these years later, I'm totally fine where they're at. And I love and look forward to each new Opeth album. But I figured I'd pick the album where he kind of made that statement first. So Michael Ackerfeld from Opeth is my number 5 choice.
In the prog community, we call that the Steven Wilson factor.
Yes.
Because he produced it. And
That's where I started with Opeth. That's the first thing I heard by them, and it just blew me away. And I went backwards from there and kind of thought, what the hell is happening? I found that I loved it too, but I must admit that I still prefer the kind of
you got to go forward with them.
Yeah, but yeah, I can take the death metal stuff as well, but it's not really where I spend most of my time with them.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, musically though, it's that's whenever I get into a conversation with someone who's not into death metal or extreme metal, and and I introduce them to Opeth and they start to dip into that back catalog, they're like, oh my god, the music is everything I love, but I just can't stand the growling vocals. It's hard for a lot of people, right? That's why I say, well, you know what? It's like, then start from Watershed should be the last thing you consider. Anything after that is fair game, and you'll probably like that because there's no more growls after that album. So, George, I'm curious. So I know George does not like growling vocals. So do you listen to the Opeth catalog post Watershed?
Post, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last one was my favorite. Outlier.
That's great. Yeah.
See, mine, a Pale Communion to me is a masterpiece.
It's great. Yep. And I love Sorceress. I mean, that's
So do I.
Yeah.
What's weird about Sorceress is those 2 extra tracks that they put on the disc too. They should have been on the album. They're fantastic.
Oh, they're awesome. Yeah.
I'm like,
how
these are amazing.
That is Nuclear Blast saying, we want you to buy this album twice.
Yeah.
Release it 6 months after the fact, and then throw those 2 extra tunes, and you got to buy it again. That's just the way it goes. Yep. Cool. All right, Steven, back to you.
Well, I'm going to have to tell a Michael Ackerfeld story because one of the few times I've seen him live, I did love it when he came out and said, if you've loved us, we are Opeth. If you haven't, we are Europe.
All right, then.
There you go. Kind of sums him up.
He's a funny guy. He's got a great sense.
So, right, my number 4, back on track. My number 4 is Stuart Nicholson from Galahad. So, favorite album I've chosen.
I like that album.
As Empires Never Last, because vocally he just does everything on this album. He leads songs, but he seems to incorporate characters on this album. And it's I Could Be God is the song that I need to pick out, is the one that really just hits all the right notes for me. The version that's on the Live in Poland DVD, where he just seems to become the song, and he lives the character, is really just phenomenal. And are there better singers out there? Yeah, I think there's probably lots of better singers out there, but he really does. I think he puts it all out there. He bears himself for the song, and really lives it. You can hear the pain, you can hear the anger, or you can hear the subtlety in a way that I think a lot of singers would love to be able to do, even though they can maybe express the actual words more eloquently than Stuart can. But I just think that I find him a captivating vocalist, and all through their catalogue, he's been probably the thing that's really hooked me in. The music's great, and the musicianship's phenomenal. But I absolutely adore his voice, and especially that version of I Could Be God is really Oh, I'm getting hairs in the back of my neck just thinking about it. I love that when he comes out and he's living a character. It's brilliant, absolutely fantastic. And that's Stuart Nicholson from Galahad for me, number 4.
That's a perfect example of how it is quite possible in this genre called progressive rock or progressive metal, where the vocalist can be just as captivating, if not more so, than the music. Correct, George?
That's right.
As we were just talking about before. Yep.
Yep. So good choice. Yeah, I think there's a lot of examples of that. And I have some in my honorable mentions and whatnot where it's like, the music is great too, but that singer carries it, right? Yeah. Cool. All right, Anthony, back to you.
My number 4 comes in at from the UK, Mr. Ian Anderson. Heavy Horses is one of my favorites. What I love about this is from 1978. This is the Steven Wilson remix. What I love about Ian is he's like, his vocal delivery is very English. I mean, it's just English. Like when I think of songs like Roots to Branches, that's very English. But what a showman, what a flute player. In my opinion, Jethro Tull found their sound on the Benefit and kind of just went nuts for the rest of the 70s. The vocal delivery, the showmanship, he just has this aura, the vibe on stage that just commands attention. And I'll tell you, like one of the performances I think of at the MSG when they do Thick as a Brick, where he's got the cap. I mean, it's just so English. I mean, you have to be captivated by that. So I'm going with Ian Anderson, number 4 from Jethro Tull. One of my favorite tunes, I'll say off of Heavy Horses, is a title track. Just glorious tune. Prog epic.
Yep. Great choice.
Can't beat that.
You can argue with that one. All right, George, back to you.
Number 4 is from Sweden. A guy named Henrik Bass. Fronts this band, Dark Water. Prog metal, very Dream Theater, not so much with the audacious chops, more of a melodic prog metal band. His thing is just his tone. His tone is gorgeous. He's not much for acrobatics, but his tone will just draw you in. He's done some guesting too. He did a thing with a band called Waken Eyes. And he also did a power metal thing with a band called Harmony, but it's the Dark Water stuff that really draws me in, the melodies and the way it fits with the music. Super clean, Swedish, all the studios there always sound great. So for me, it's Henrik Bass, Dark Water.
How many albums they got now?
3.
Okay.
They work really slow. The first one was 2007.
Yeah, it's been a while.
They're only up to 3.
Yeah.
Or at least they weren't a one and done like most of some of your bands are, George.
You're right.
Like all those fusion bands were like one and done.
One and done. Or like Shadow Gallery. Oh man.
All right, Chuck.
All right.
Back to you.
All right. My number 4 is from Canada, aping on what Steven had just mentioned, Michael Sadler, Saga, and the album pick that I have is Behavior. Michael Sadler, just an original singer, one of these guys that no one sounds like him. If you can compare him to a singer as far as his singing goes and his enunciation, is probably Freddie Mercury. You can't really think of anybody else that sounds like him. He wears his influences on his sleeve, but no one sings like him. And he still has the beautiful voice that he had back in the late 70s, as he still does to this time. This album right here, Behavior, Here I Am, and Goodbye, Once Upon a Time, it's like heart crushing. You listen to this and he's singing his heart out over here. Michael Sadler on the album Saga, Behavior.
That's an interesting comment about the comparison to Freddie Mercury, because I was actually, because he was one of the ones I was considering as well. And I was thinking of ways to describe him, and he's got this kind of operatic thing going from time to time. Mm-hmm. And the only other guy who really does that is Freddie. And I didn't even think about that before. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
A beautiful voice.
Oh yeah, big time. Big time.
Oh, he's got some pipes.
No, he sure does. It still has it.
Exactly. He still sounds great, as great today as he did way back in the 80s. Yep. Good choice.
It's like some singers today, even though they age, it's almost like you expect them, for some reason, to expect them to sound the same as they did. I don't know why. It's just kind of weird. It's almost like you can see that some singers took care of their health over the years and others didn't give a shit.
Yeah. It also depends too how many miles they've got on the road. Like you said, if they take, are they drinking a lot? Are they smoking? It's like, what's their general health? How do they take care of their body and their voice? But some of these guys, in their bands are not on the road, year in and year out, like some of, maybe the hard rock or metal bands, right? So there's a lot of factors that come into it. So. All right, before my next pick, I forgot to mention at the top of the hour for everybody watching, if you go to our merch page, we've got a brand new Sea of Tranquility in the Prog Seat Prog t-shirt. So check them out. Hot off the presses, really cool design. Thanks to David for coming up with that, like Roger Deanish epic looking thing there. It's perfect for this particular show. So check out You're in the Prog Seat shirt, available at the link below. All right, on to my pick. This one for me is kind of like expected, I think. He had to be on here without a doubt, because to me, he's one of the most legendary vocalists of all time, regardless of genre. And while I love his solo career, I think the stuff that he did with this band you may have heard of called Genesis, I think is absolutely spectacular. So I'm going to go with Peter Gabriel. Really hard for me to pick a favorite album, but I think this isn't necessarily Selling England by the Pound. Not my favorite Genesis album with him in the band, but I think this is perhaps his best vocal performance, arguably. You got Dancing with the Moonlight Night on here. I Know What I Like in Your Wardrobe. Firth the Fifth is on here. And,
Cinema Show,
The Battle of Epping Forest. I mean, again, to harken back what Anthony was saying before, very British sounding stuff. I think the early Genesis stuff is very British sounding, whereas I think once he went solo, he kind of moved away from that a little bit and went for a more international feel, which totally cool as well. But he's another one of those guys, I sat and thought about, it's like, do I pick him or do I pick Phil? Because I think technically Phil is a better singer.
Oh, by far.
Right?
By far.
Phil doesn't have that it quality like Peter Gabriel.
Yeah.
Peter Gabriel was all about the theatrics and the just portraying all these characters. And I don't quite think that Phil ever had that, whereas I think Phil could outsing him. But I had to give it to Peter Gabriel here because I love him to death. And no disrespect to Phil because I love him too. But if I had to pick between the two, Peter's going to get it. So that's my number 4.
Not to stray off the subject, but Pete, the album that you posted there contains the greatest guitar solo ever in the whole wide world. Luis Nazar and I agree on that one, I think.
You guys don't agree on too much though, right?
No.
So Steve
he might just disagree with me just to disagree with me.
I think that might be the case. That might be. And somewhere Ken Golden is like, but I think I disagree with Anthony more than Lewis. So
definitely.
Steve Hackett, if you are watching, we finally got something that both Louis Nasser and Anthony Ferraro agree on. That's your guitar solo in Firth the Fifth. It is one of the greats of all time. I will agree.
Love it.
Absolutely. All right, Mr. Reid, back to you.
I was sure you were going to pick Ray Wilson there as well, Peter. I can't, I was shocked.
Gee, I wonder why.
I like Ray, so I'm not going to give him a hard time. I do like
he's
Ray.
a good singer.
He's a great singer. Yeah.
As far as his time in this band, well, that's questionable, but yeah.
Yeah, it's the only time I ever saw them live was with him. So
I'll take
it over nothing. Put it that way.
That is true. That is true.
There you go. So my number 3, I think you're either going to love this or hate this. I don't quite know which. But I'm going to go, if you can see this, I'm going to go Geddy Lee.
I got no issue with that whatsoever.
There you go.
Even Signals is just, it's becoming one of my all-time favorite Rush records. It's so good.
There you go. Because it's Signals that I've chosen as the overall, this is where he kills it. This is where he kills it vocally. I think he's outstanding on this. I mean, you just have to, every song in here, but New World, man.
Oh, man.
Awful. He has on
song.
You know? Well, everything else that's going on in this band, how can the singer be the focal point? It makes no sense whatsoever, but he is at this stage. And I absolutely adore this stage of Rush, Hold Your Fire, Signals, Moving Pictures. in about that era when a lot of people were kind of going, but turn the guitar up. I kind of got into Rush when I was working night shift. I was mid-teens, walking home at night in the dark, listening to A Show of Hands an awful lot. And it was just perfect for that setting. Nobody else in the world walking around, just working off the streetlights, walking home. And it was just, the production is sterile, it's tough. Wow, it was.
Why is that lonely guy walking in the middle of the night listening to Rush?
Listen to Rush.
You know, whatever gets you through. Come on. I mean, A Show of Hands, which I appalled myself by actually going and trying to find to show on here. I must have had a cassette copy of it from somebody and I was too cheap to go and buy it at that stage, and I've never bought it, so I'm going to go buy it. But that era of Rush just is phenomenal. His vocals are just outstanding, and he can still do it right up to now as well. Do you know? Every time I saw them live, I mean, they were outstanding. They were amazing. You could watch any of the three of them on their own all night long, but Geddy's vocals were just superb. You know, I mean, I'm a drummer at heart, so Neil's drums were just sort of stuff, you know, aspirations beyond my, you know, ability more than anything else. But yeah, Geddy Lee, I know that he splits opinions with a lot of people. People say he's a bit nasally and all this kind of stuff, but I adore his vocals, always have, always will. And yeah, just what he was doing around this kind of era.
He grew into himself during that time, which his vocals became much better with each album, especially after, I would say, 2112, and he finally hit his peak right at about that time.
Yeah. I think so. He was, as I say, allowing your singer to lead the sort of music this band were capable of playing. I mean, that could be madness, but man, it's anything but. It's absolutely fantastic, you know? And I mean, okay, they had a hit single and a lot of people kind of lost kudos with them on that. But why not? If you can sing a pop song that's got a bit of reggae in it, and I'm not a massive reggae fan, I have to say, but you know, if you can cover that ground and go out there and do all of those things and still create albums as complex and technical as these, why would you not? Why would you not go and do that? You know, so yeah, Geddy Lee, he takes a lot of stick from a lot of people. I absolutely adore the guy.
You have to wonder, though, are the detractors of his vocal style focusing more on the early days when he was screeching, you know, big time, and maybe haven't given the latter period stuff a chance, where his vocals are, you know, perfectly, I wouldn't say normal because he always has a very unique sound, but there's a big difference between Caress of Steel and
Clockwork Orange
Signals, right? Or anything post Moving Pictures, right? So you got to wonder if how many the people who say they don't like Rush because of his vocals are mainly just thinking of those 70s albums and really haven't taken the plunge into the latter period albums, where his vocals are much, much lower and definitely easier on the ears to me. I mean, I love all of it because I loved him when he was screeching like a banshee, and I loved him at the end, you know, the last Rush album. So you got to wonder.
Yeah, it's a fair point, I suppose. I mean, the kind of 80s into 90s Rush wasn't really celebrated, you know? So maybe the people who didn't like the early stuff just made their mind up, and then the critics didn't really like what came afterwards, so they thought, well, they are rubbish after all, I was right all along. Yeah. You know, and it was maybe an easy out for them in that sense. But yeah, I adore Rush right from the first album that doesn't really sound like Rush, right the way through to, you know, to where it unfortunately had to end. But that's the era for me that just does absolutely everything. I could listen to them all day long.
Yeah, I hear you. But I even know people who love the early stuff where he's screeching and they don't like the latter period stuff because he's too toned down. So go figure, right? You're
never going to win.
Whatever. All right, Anthony, what do you got?
My number 3 comes from the UK, possibly the very first supergroup in the prog genre. I'm going with Mr. Greg Lake. This is Tarkus from 1971. I'll tell you, like some of the performances, like You Turn Me On. I mean, it's just talk about heavenly voice, just magic. An incredible musician. I just hearing his vocals in the from 70 to 74, and even on the King Crimson first solo record. I mean, it's just like a heavenly voice to me. I don't know what it is, but what a musician, that vocal, you know, when you watch and you hear him, all I just think is magic. Like I think of the Pictures of Exhibition DVD that I have, where one of the songs they do is the Sage, where it's just an acoustic song with him who looks like he's higher than a kite. I think he is, but he's got that squirrel thing around his neck. But I mean, just magic. His vocal, there's some, as George was talking about one of his the first one he mentioned, where it kind of gives you an emotion, it makes you feel good. There's just something about Lake's voice that's angelic and just magical and heavenly and just soothing. I mean, it's just magic in my book. So I'm going with Tarkus is one of my favorite ELP tunes. And I know people, a lot of proggers and geeks think that Tarkus is mainly a Keith Emerson, Carl Palmer tune, but I'll tell you, Lake's haunting vocals in that really make that tune. Mm-hmm. So Lake's my number 3.
Cool. Nicely said. I think we should start doing these shows a little earlier because you got a lot of fire tonight, my friend.
I see. Yeah, he's like angry.
Love it.
No brain farts.
This is late, Peter. This is late.
Hey, Steven, just to go back on that Hold Your Fire record, turn the page, just magical.
Yeah, isn't it just absolutely phenomenal? Yeah, outstandingly good.
Cool. All right, George, what's up your sleeve next here?
My number 3 is from Australia. Jim Gray from a band called Caligula's Horse.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They're kind of
it looks like a Google map.
Bird.
Oh, it was a peacock.
Yeah. They're kind of a coming band in the scene, actually. They have a lot of heft behind them, a lot of fans.
Yeah, their last 2 albums have gotten a lot of attention.
Yeah. What's good about him is they do a lot of acoustic passages, and they're almost gent heavy in parts. So he does the quiet to loud thing really, really well, but especially the quiet stuff. I would say I've seen people compare him to Maynard James Keenan from Tool. And I hear that, but I think his melodies are better, and I think he definitely more emotional. He wrenches out emotion out of everything that they do. All 5 records are great. I came in from the beginning, so this one really sticks to me, but I'm in the minority there. If you want to check them out, you're probably better off go later according to everybody else. So Jim Gray.
They're still on Inside Out, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay.
They've got some real traction in recent times. They're an excellent band. They just haven't had an awful lot of, recognition, but it's beginning to rise now for them, and it really should be too. They're an excellent outfit.
Yeah. Good choice. All right, Chuck.
All right. I'm going a bit left field on most of you guys now. This one over here is going to be a bit of a shocker. I know George is like itching at the hands, thinking, yeah, but I'm going to go off to the left side, and so I'm going to pick eccentric singer, a very strange singer at that. I'm going to go with Kate Bush. 1978, Never Forever. This album over here? Kate Bush, as we had mentioned the last time that we were together, singing, her singing on Games of Frontier, and other duets with Peter Gabriel. But, a lot of people can't get into her voice, but speaking about people with very strange voices, she has like this popish prog alternative rock sound. I always love this album over here. It's probably my favorite from her, where she has songs like Babushka, Delayus, the Song of Summer, like right now, Blown Away, The Wedding List, The Infant Kissed and Breathing, and Army Dreamers. So my number 3 is Kate Bush and the album Never Forever.
I gotta say, Chuck, I'm very happy you picked her because of a couple of reasons. One, we were going to get torched if nobody mentioned a female singer in this entire episode. And 2, I can't tell you how many people ask me every single day, when are you guys ever going to talk about Kate Bush on this? There you have it.
Well, I'm a big fan of her, so
there you go. Okay.
I'm the man.
That's brilliant. Do you know what I like most about Kate Bush is you listen to her music and you listen to her vocals, and she doesn't give a fuck.
Mhm.
Do you know,
Exactly.
that's what really sticks out for me.
You're right.
You know,
You're right. Mhm.
you know, she's just going to put it all out there, and you either hold on and just get dragged along by it, or you know, you're left in the dust somewhere over there, and she still doesn't give a fuck. It's as simple as that, you know. And I think she's fantastic. So
I think she's
is a fair comparison. Could Tori Amos kind of have an influence from her?
Yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah, I
yes.
would say so. Yeah,
It's 100%. Well, she even mentioned it herself. She even said it herself, as well as Madonna.
I mean, if you're going to write a song about called Cornflake Girl, it's got to be, she's got to have some influence.
Is that a real song?
Yeah, by Tori Amos.
I mean, I still think a washing machine has to be better, does it not? Come on. I love that song too. So,
well, if you two gents ever want to get together and do some sort of a ranking the albums of Kate Bush, even if it's like a top 5 or something, let me know, because so many people ask, and I'm not going to do it. So I can sit here and look pretty and moderate, and you guys can do it. We'll talk offline, but, now that I said that, we're going to get all these comments. Yes, Kate Bush.
Oh man, you got to do it.
We'll do the
Pete, can Steven Reid and I do an Eddie Jobson appreciation show?
You can probably do it all on your own, Anthony.
I'd be the only one that appreciates it.
I think that we should do a Kate Bush ranking show, Peter, and you can act out the videos.
That'll be fun. That'll be fun. I'm sure the world is waiting with bated breath to see that.
Oh
man. All right. So my number 3 has already been mentioned. I love this guy. And again, it's not always about singing ability, like Steven mentioned earlier. Sometimes it's just the total package. And I agree with everything Anthony said about Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull. He, to me, he's just one of the best frontmen of all time. Love his flute playing. He's a great acoustic guitar player. And he's all over the place on stage. He's miming and doing all sorts of cool stuff. And, you know, back when he really could still sing, he's, you know, had his issues in recent years, but man, forget technical ability. This guy just is so entertaining. And you're absolutely right. He's so, even though he is Scottish, he's so British sounding. And it's just every time he opens his mouth, it just lures you right in. And I had a really hard time picking, you know, my favorite vocal performance from an album perspective from him. I went with Songs from the Wood because I think he's so awesome on this album. Not that he isn't on Aqualung and Benefit and Thick as a Brick and Minstrel in the Gallery and Heavy Horses and, you know,
Passion Play
and Warm Watch. I mean, I just named every freaking album, right? But I don't know. There's also something very woodsy, and this is a very English album, and I think it's a very charming album, and I think it's all because of him. So I don't know, but I love him to death. I have for so many years. And again, there's other guys in my honorable mentions and ones that didn't make the list that could out-sing Ian without question, who I love as well. But this guy, for me, does it all. And that to me means a lot more than just some guy who can out-sing everybody else, right? So there you go.
That first track just sucks you in. Those harmonies were just glorious.
The entire album, man.
Yeah, it's really good, right? Yeah, it's funny. I've loved Jethro Tull for a long time, but I've found like the older I get, the more I appreciate this band. And sometimes you wonder, how easy is it to continue to appreciate a band more that you've already loved for 30, 40 years? And this is one of those bands that I find new things about them that I like more each and every year. And you know, it doesn't hurt that they keep releasing these fucking box sets that I mean, all right, so I love this album, but now when I get this great box set with all the bonus discs and the remix sound from Steven Wilson and the 80-page book, yeah, I love them even more. So yeah, but that doesn't hurt. But yeah, no, love Ian Anderson, love Jethro Tull. So back to Steven.
I thought I was completely organized for tonight's show. Until I went to get my favourite album to show from this singer. So you've mentioned him already, Peter, and I knew that you would. So my favourite album is Foxtrot, which is Through in the Bedroom, where all my records stay, because where else would they be? It's where I sleep, so it's where they have to be, obviously. but I can't get it at this time of night here. So yes.
All right, I just pulled a Rand Kelly for you. There you go.
Thank you very much. There you go. So yeah, I mean, you've said it all about Gabriel. What else is there left to say? There's a voice that's changed over the years.
Yes.
Do you know? Because that kind of era foxtrot, he's very idiosyncratic. It's all, you know, that's real playing parts, isn't it? You know, you kind of wonder what planet he's on at certain points during every album with Genesis more than anything else. But as he's changed, as you say, he's become maybe more commercial, but more international. His voice has aged remarkably well, but he's a very different singer now, do you know? And all this push and pull to, you know, get him back in Genesis in some way or another, I think would be madness more than anything else, because I just think that it would be a very odd experience to hear that voice singing those songs now, because it's not the same voice at all in any shape or form. I've seen him live a couple of times in the last, I was waiting to say last couple of years, obviously that's not true, last decade or so. And the way he sings now is just completely different. There's a rasp in there, there's a kind of wealth of experience and knowledge in that voice. But back in the early Genesis eras, there was a youthful vigor and a kind of a real, I don't know, naivety about what he was doing in many ways. And that's maybe why it was quite so dangerous and quite so daring, you know, because did he know what he was going to do? I'd imagine he probably did, because he seems to be that sort of guy, but it doesn't sound like it. So I picked out Foxtrot. I mean, the whole album is just fantastic, but vocally, I mean, really, I mean, side 2 is just outstandingly good all the way through. But as a single song, I actually chose Carpet Crawlers, because I've never been able to get enough of that song. And I just think that the way that he changes the dynamics of the whole, you know, well, that album in general, but that song is just phenomenal. And I think it's kind of forgotten along the way. You know, it was interesting because you said Peter or Phil, and it got me thinking that I think Phil's a great singer who happens to have sung some prog, where I think Peter Gabriel's a great prog singer who happens now to have sung some pop. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that's maybe why the two can do both, but they don't quite meet in the middle. But at the same time, you listen to those early albums and the backing vocals, you know, which Phil was a massive part of too, are also intrinsic to what makes, I think, the room and the space for Gabriel to go and do what he was able to do on those albums. It kind of gave it an underpinning for him to be a bit crazy and a bit daft, to kind of expand the song as the band kept it all in there, you know? So yeah, I mean, Gabriel, he's not my number one, but I mean, he is the number one in many ways. So yeah, the number one is my number 2 choice.
I feel the exact same way. I feel the exact same way. Well said. All right, Anthony, number 2.
My number 2 is my first American artist. I'm going with, and this could change. Like tomorrow, he could be my number 1, and my other guy could be number 2. It's how much I feel about these two. But today, I'm going with Steve Walsh from Kansas. My favorite Mask from 1975. Icarus Wings Born of Steel is one of my favorite tunes. The Pinnacle. Walsh has this type of vocal delivery that he could be a hard rock singer, he could be a prog singer, he could be a pop singer, like in the 80s when he did All I Wanted, which was kind of a minor hit for them. But there's something about him, his voice, his vocal delivery. It just has that you could see him playing you could see him singing a hard rock tune. You could see him singing a prog tune. One of the other 2 tracks that I adore of him is on the 2 tracks that he sings on the Steve Hackett solo album, Please Don't Touch, Narnia and help me guys.
Racing in
A. Those 2 are, Narnia is just absolutely gorgeous. The harmonies on Racing A are just fantastic. What else to be said about Walshy? Number 2, Kansas, 1975, Mask is my favorite. And one of my favorite tracks on here, Icarus Born, Wings of Steel. I saw this a couple times live. Gave me goosebumps. Fantastic.
Yep. And
there's a band I'll never see live, unfortunately.
Robbie Steinhardt. Robbie, rest in peace.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
The perfect duet between the two. I mean,
For All the World.
All the World is probably one of the best. Yeah. And the one track off Left Overture. Help me. I'm losing my mind.
What's it? That was the late Robbie said that was their Genesis influence.
Miracles Out of Nowhere. There we go.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. They said that was their.
I got the old.
You got the old. You all got the old.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll get off the show and everything will come back to my head. Whatever's left in there.
All right, everything I said about you before, forget it. It's done.
Oh man, it's done.
Just kidding.
Oh,
all right, George, what do you got for number 2?
Number 2 is from Norway. Probably the only well-acknowledged vocal god kind of guy, Mr. Roy Khan.
Oh yeah, oof.
Yeah. From the prog power band Conception. He's probably more famous for being in another band, which is symphonic power metal. So I didn't bring that up. But yeah, he's got more reputation for that band. He does great work in that band. But I heard this band first, and I think actually the vocals are better in this band. He was more impressive to me then. But he's good at Camelot also.
I was hoping you were going to mention him at some point. The band that will not be named.
His thing is, he's got a velvety tone, man. He's
a great singer, yeah.
No, he really is.
Like cradles you and just sinks you in with that super nice tone. And he can belt too, but he's not that guy that's trying to blow you away with what note he can hit. He at some point he leaves Camelot. He has a religious epiphany, and his return was so pined for that he put out a video where he's singing in church, and people went nuts. Like, oh my God, just to have something where he's singing. That's how regarded he is. And for once, everybody's right. He's completely great, Roy Khan.
Yeah.
Yeah, my journey with him was the other way around. I started with Camelot.
Camelot, same here.
You know, and it was actually a good friend of mine that said, you need to go and hear Conception. And I just went out and bought everything that he'd done with him in one fell swoop because I liked his work with Camelot so much. Wow. Conception were just like it. That was my epiphany. Do you know? It was just like, what a singer. What a singer. And I must admit, I miss him so much because he's just incredible. Nobody else like him, even though people are now trying to be like him because of where they're singing. But, you know, he's outstandingly good.
Excellent pick.
I will say, though, Tommy is a great singer.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I love everything.
They got the best guy to take his place, you know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with that too.
Yeah, but Roy Khan is, he's a special talent. Good choice. All right, Chuck.
All right, I'm going to Italy for this one. A Greek-born singer, perhaps one of the greatest singers of his generation. Didn't live long. He died in 1979. I'm talking about Dimitrios Stratos from the band Area. And this album over here, Albright.
Hi, Asher.
Hi. Oh, I guess the kitty loves it too.
I love the way she just kind of like a tentacle just lurks. Hello.
Oh man. So if anybody knows anything about the band Area, they were pretty much a jazz rock band, but when Dimitrios Stratos, when he sung, man, he took command. You know, he had a great vocal voice. I think he sung in a few different octaves, and he made sure that he's very similar to Peter Hamill. Some people might think that he's a little bit more of a pure singer than Hamill is. My album once again is from the Italian band Area, jazz rock fusion band. Albright Mock Fry. Now I know I'm gonna get roasted for this like I did with Noi.
It's hard to pronounce some of this stuff. Did you hear me the other day on the show? Or was it the show I did with you, George? I don't even remember now. I went and try and pronounce. It was Kenzo, and I'm sitting there trying to pronounce every guy's name in the band, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Did I get him right? I don't even know. Nobody said it.
Oh man, well I'm going to get roasted for that.
Well, a really good singer though. That's a really cool band too. That's a good choice.
Oh, they were outstanding, man.
Yeah. So he died in 79. I didn't know.
79. Yeah. As a matter of fact, he died here in New York City. He came here to a hospice for his cancer care. And in 1979, he went to, I think he was at Mount Sinai, I think, or Memorial Sloan. And he wound up dying there in 1979.
Wow. Okay.
How old was he, Chuck?
He was, how old was he? He was,
he wasn't that old. Maybe.
No, he wasn't that old. He was probably like in his early 30s, if that.
Oh, that's awful.
He was 34.
Oh,
34.
All righty.
All right.
My number two, it's interesting because this particular guy, I often not really lump together, but there's two guys here that I've always thought were kind of rivals. They were both in two of the same bands, although one was only in the other band fairly briefly, and they have, in a weird way, at times similar vocal styles. Now, they don't really sound alike, but there's a melodic nature that they both have, which I absolutely love, and they both play bass. And I didn't want to include both of them in my list, and I said I'm only going to pick one. And I decided to go with the one that I think, overall, I like more of the albums he has appeared on a little bit more. And I think his voice overall, when I look at both of their careers, and they both died right around the same time too, which is really sad. I think I like his body of work a little bit better. I'm talking about John Wetton. And I decided to go with Red, but man, I could have gone with UK. I could have gone with that first Asia album. Could have gone with Lark's Tongues and Aspect. I mean, his solo, Crossfire. Just so many great albums this guy has appeared on, and all you gotta do is hear Starless, and that just does it for me. Fallen Angel, One More Red Nightmare, Easy Money. I mean,
Great Deceiver,
In the Dead of Night. I mean, just Danger Money, all this just great stuff. Great bass player too, but man, there's something about the silky smooth vocal style of John Wetton that I have always absolutely loved. And what a legend. Lost him way too soon, but John Wetton is my number two.
Pete, at Nearfest, the last Nearfest, 2012, when UK was had to replace Eloy because of Frank's accident. John Wetton said, "Well, people only think I'm only on one record." He was referring to Red, and he did just an acoustic version of Book of Saturdays that was just unreal.
Wow, very cool.
People went nuts.
I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine. Great talents. Yeah, it's just a shame that he so many really tough years.
Yeah.
Like his alcoholism was, from what I understand, really, really bad.
Very bad.
He thought he was going to die from that. And, they kept that pretty quiet for a while. And then, when they finally, he started to, people started to get really worried about him, seeing him performing, and he was just in bad shape. And that's when it came out that he had been struggling with that for quite a while. So, yeah.
But after I don't know if he had a stent put in or something, but after he got the alcohol behind him, he really, he was right up till the end. He sounded amazing.
Oh, he really did. And
those UK reunion tours were fantastic.
And he still had the voice.
Did you guys hear any of that stuff he did with District 97? I mean,
yes. Oh, what another great band.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. All right, here we go for number one. Steven, what do you got?
Well, you invite me on the show, I stay up late, and I'm going to choose a singer who, for most people, or for many people, killed one of their favourite prog bands. Do you know? I can't help myself. I just have to do it. We all know where I'm going here. Do you know? I can't help myself. I have to do it.
Stephen Hogarth.
It just has to be. Do you know? This is the pinnacle. Vocally, Brave is just phenomenal. Yeah, I like a box set. And it's just the emotion that he carries through this album, but for me, through everything that he does, is just incredible. And I know that what Marillion have done post-Fish polarizes opinion, and it doesn't matter what you say about Marillion, there'll be comments underneath about, oh, it was only when in the band I love them, or oh, it was only when H was in the band that I love them. And there you have it. Do you know, I love both eras equally, different days for different things. But when you go see them live now, and they play things like Ocean Cloud from Marbles, the vocals are incredible. I will go out there and say that in terms of an emotional contact, when I go see a band live, I can't put any other singer in the same bracket as Steve Hogarth. Do you know, when he is really soaring through the notes and he's got the ability to start small and take the song to be something just ginormous and huge. It's an emotional experience, you know, and it's just overwhelms me more than anything. So I'm not known to be moved to tears very often, but he takes me pretty close, do you know, and there are people when you go see Marillion, and not just because Fish isn't there, that are in tears when Steve Hogarth sings. And I just think that he's an incredible talent that is not given a fair crack of the whip, because the other guys who write the music don't write the same music that they did back in the early 80s, do you know? And Steve Hogarth, for me, is just a phenomenal talent who can turn his hand to a whole load of different things. But yeah, it's that emotional connection that I can't replicate with any other singer. For me, when I see them live, it's just incredible. So yeah, I'm sorry everybody, my number one is Steve Hogarth.
I saw them live 4 times, only with H, and they're brilliant. It's very similar to Genesis, you know, where you know you have Fish, who is this great lead singer, you know, with a great stage presence, and then all of a sudden he leaves abruptly, and then you go on to H, and people didn't know what to expect from that. They were expecting another Fish, but technically H is a better singer. You know, he also has a great stage presence as well. And you picked 2 fine albums right there. My favorite album from them is always going to be Afraid of Sunlight. I think that's the album where I feel that he sings his heart out, and where the band plays to their best. But Brave and Marbles is just as great as well. Excellent pick. Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing for me is that that's a band that I've had, in my opinion, 2 phenomenal singers. Mm-hmm. And much though I love Hogarth, obviously he's my number one pick, he can't sing the Fish stuff. Mm-hmm. Do you know? I mean, he can, mm-hmm. and it's good, but he obviously needs that emotional connection to the song mm-hmm. to really become the singer that he can be. And he has said himself that he has really struggled to make that emotional connection with Fish's lyrics, because mm-hmm. they're remarkably personal.
Oh, yeah, very personal. You know? One of the few songs that I've heard him sing that I really like the way he sings it, but it's still very different, is Market Square Heroes. Mm-hmm. Where you hear his version and it's totally different, you know, and he sounds great on it, but it just doesn't have that emotional feel to it.
Yeah.
You know, and I see where you're coming from it.
I think he's even got a different rhythmical feel. Fish was quite a rhythmical singer. Do you know, mm-hmm. he kind of was always on the beat or just ahead of the beat with the way that he was driving a song along. Mm-hmm. Hogarth doesn't do that. He fills the song. It's mm-hmm. a different experience entirely. And as a long-term fan of the band, who unfortunately never saw them with Fish, mm-hmm. I did see Hogarth's first tour with Marillion, and I've seen them, I don't know how many times since. And to see them in Glasgow, which obviously was, you know, Fish's, I mean, he's more of an Edinburgh guy, but that was his home territory. Hogarth didn't quite know what to do that night, you know, and the fans adored him. And he was climbing, you know, the amps and the sound system and trying to be something that he clearly now, looking back, isn't. Because I don't know if he felt the need to kind of fill that void in a physical way, in a different way. But watching that journey through the decades has been quite phenomenal. So yeah, anyway, I'll stop because I could talk all night.
2 Marillion fans.
Yeah, I mean, they are 2 completely different forces of nature, those 2 guys. And you know, I've said it numerous times here on Sea of Tranquility, and he's a great singer. I think he's phenomenal. I've seen them live with him numerous times. My issue has always been with not all of it, but like maybe about half of the output that they've done since he's been on board just doesn't do anything for me. Mm-hmm. I like him as a singer. I like some of the albums. Some of them I find really boring, but I always thought he was a really good singer. He's a great front man. and he kills it live. And he targets an inner emotion live on stage that I don't know if Fish ever really could. Whereas Fish was more about the presence and the angst and telling stories. I think that Hogarth tapped into something that you would feel, right? That you would see him up on stage and it would kind of go through you. And that's pretty special because not a lot of singers do that or can do that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I admit, as a massive Marillion fan and of the H era, that there is a mid-period dip in that output, where there's 2 or 3 albums that I've always struggled to connect with and I've tried really hard and still can't in the same way. But he's always been really just outstanding for me. But yeah, as I say, I could go on all night about it, so I won't. And already have.
cool. That's a good choice. I didn't see it coming as number 1, but
there you go. There you go. Yeah.
All right, Anthony, I hope I didn't steal your thunder.
No. My number 1 is going to be a shocker. All right. As I said, on any given day, I could have Steve Walsh at number 2 or Steve Walsh at number 1, or I could have this guy at number 1. John Anderson. Going for the One is one of my favorite all-time favorite records. Just in case anybody didn't know, Eddie Jobson. John Anderson, what can I say? Angelic. He made a prog band, kind of like sound like a pop band. It's that vocals, the backing band, Howe, Squire, but Anderson's voice. One of my favorite tunes by him, Turn of the Century. He and Howe and the acoustic, just beautiful, angelic, gorgeous. He's 76, going to be 77 in September. Still sounds like he did 30 years ago. I'm seeing him in 2 weeks. I've seen him probably 5 or 6 times. I've seen him solo 2 times in the last couple of years. Amazing. Belting out Elias tunes, belting out, stuff from Going from the One and Fragile and Close to the Edge. He's my number 1. I mean, this guy is amazing. Talk about a guy who took care of his voice. He's definitely one of them.
Still has
a little nature helped, but this guy took care of his voice. He always talked about lemon and tea. The guy is phenomenal. What can I say? And his backing keyboard player, Eddie Jobson, approved.
I'm getting suspicious now because Eddie is like winning every damn show we do here. Guitars, vocals, man, he does it all, right?
Yes, yeah. I even like Anderson's work with that other keyboard guy, Vangelis.
Yes.
Yeah, the John Vangelis stuff is outstanding, and his vocals get so much room there on those albums that angelic is what he is. Yeah, that's a great choice.
Yeah, well, The Return to Mr. Cairo is a great tune with Vangelis.
I love that song.
Yeah.
I made a video for that song.
Yes, very 80s. All right, George, give me some love. What do you got?
Go on, George.
My guy is pretty divisive. A lot of people can't stand him, honestly, but the people that do like him, they love him. John Arch.
Oh, I love him.
It's Warning.
I love him.
I'm a big fan too.
He's actually a progressive singer. I mean, the melodies he comes up with, if you're listening to the song and you're reading the lyric sheet, you're like, this is not going to fit. And if it does, it's going to sound crazy, but he makes it so flowing and so melodic. He's a melodies guy big time. His tone is a little bothersome to people. It's got a little nasal quality to it, but I don't care. Fuck the haters. I mean, guys, he did in the mid 80s and then he disappears for 17 years. Might have done him some good because he came back and
sounds better than ever.
Yeah, it's incredible. Now he's got Arch Matthews. It's just his work on those albums is just as good as these albums. I mean, he's incredible.
Yeah, I think he's, we talked earlier about how some of these singers didn't have all those miles on the road. That is a perfect example of it, because he left Fate's Warning and didn't do anything.
Nothing.
Sat at home in Connecticut.
I thought he died. I thought he died.
Right? It was like, whatever happened to John Arch? Oh, John Arch has raised a family and joined the life, and then all of a sudden he comes back with that first solo out, that little like EP thing, and everybody's like, "Holy crap! He sounds like it's 1985 all over again."
Apparently, they used to get asked about him way too much. I saw Fates Warning in the first tour with Alder in '89 at some club, and before the show, we saw Matos walking by, and one of us asked him, "What's up with Arch?" And he's like, "Ask him yourself."
Wow.
Alrighty.
Curmudgeon.
Jesus.
I guess at the time that wasn't a very friendly parting, right?
They're probably sick of hearing about it, you know?
Yeah.
He's a popular guy with the fan base.
Yeah. I will say though, Ray is also spectacular.
Oh, he really is.
Special talent. Yeah.
He's got a different range, but the biggest Arch fan was Ray. That's why he wanted to be in the band, because he loved him with Arch.
Yeah. Yep. Good choice.
Oh, that's an excellent choice. Love it.
All right, Chuck.
All right.
I wonder who you got for number one.
Oh man, George is itching right now. I see it. Actually, I'm going to throw another curve into this. I'm going to go with Renaissance. Annie Haslam.
Woo!
You know what's that?
Ladies tonight. All right.
In my opinion, she's peerless. I think she's the greatest singer. That female singer in progressive rock history. I don't think there's a single female singer that could touch her in her prime. And this album right over here, Ashes is Burning, the title track. It's just one of those amazing songs that she sung. Just brilliant. Everything that she's done with Renaissance, has just been outstanding. That's another. I would say that she's the female counterpart to John Anderson. Beautiful, angelic voice, almost operatic at times. With her lyricism, it's like she's from the Renaissance era. My number one, once again, is Annie Haslam from Renaissance, the UK band Renaissance.
That is a great choice. She is amazing. She's in my honorable mentions list, and she's a lovely human being.
Oh, she's a sweetheart. Oh my goodness.
Times I've interviewed her here on the channel. She's the real deal.
I gave her a real nice hug when she was in Manhattan one time, and she let me hug her too.
That's a sweetheart. That's
very nice.
Yeah. And let's be honest, that band should have been a lot bigger than they were.
Oh, much. Their bass player, Joe Cap. Whenever they talk about great bass players, they often talk about Chris Squire and other sorts, but they never talk about him.
Oh, he was so good. And all those guys who played the Rickenbacker and played it like a leader.
Oh, amazing bass player.
Yeah, it's a great choice. What a great band. And Ashes Are Burning is perhaps my favorite song from them as well. All right, my number one. This was interesting. I when I first started to put this together, I knew he was going to be in my top five. I wasn't quite sure if he would be as high, but the more I thought about it, I think from a purely vocal perspective, like some of the other guys, a couple of the other guys I picked, one or two of them I admitted that, may not have the best voices comparatively speaking to some other dudes, but it's all about the total package. Well, this guy was the total package, but man, the voice of an angel and a hell of a keyboard player. It's just a shame that he, lost a lot of his vocal power fairly early on, like in the 90s, like he continued on with Kansas probably a little longer than he should have, because in the end, he really wasn't cutting it. But man, in his prime, very few could top Steve Walsh.
Yep.
And
I agree.
Mention again his pairing with Robbie Steinhardt, may he rest in peace, one of the great vocal teams ever. But I love all those early albums. I think my favorite vocals overall from him are on Point of No Return, though. I mean, Closet Chronicles, the title track, Paradox,
Hopelessly Human.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just great stuff on here. And just such a great voice. I think, from that like late 70s, you had a couple guys, not necessarily always in prog, but you had a couple guys that had these just powerhouse vocals. Him, Lou Gramm from Foreigner, and Steve Perry from Journey. It doesn't get much better than those three guys right around this time period. And Brad Delp from Boston, too.
Oh, yes, can't forget about him.
I mean, just the late 70s, you know, all US acts here. But yeah, just whew. Steve Walsh is my number one. Honorable mention time. You got a couple you want to rattle off?
All right. Okay, well, I'll go with mine.
Okay.
What's the great UK influential band family? Roger Chapman.
Wow.
What's that? Roger Chapman. What's it? Yeah. You know, there basically is no Genesis, no Straubs, no Jethro Tull without this band. And this album over here, Roger Chapman sings his ass off over here. You get to hear him on both studio on one half and live on another. It's my favorite album by family. Once again, it's there's name of this album is Anyway. And then I'm going to make our good buddy George happy with Peter Hamill live at the Rock Pile Sats for the last. Give me Jesus. I'm a bit tongue-tied over here. This is this live stuff that he did in the early 80s with the K group. Just him singing. Sometimes he goes acoustic on his own, and then he has like a different band from what he had with Van de Graaff, and very much towards the alternative rock scene. Then I also have a few other honorable mentions just in case we would have went a bit more. John Anderson, Fragile. Phil Collins with A Trick of a Tale. Ian Anderson with Jethro Tull, Aqualung. And then the late John Wetton on Red, King Crimson. And then the last one I have, what's that trilogy? The late Greg Lake.
You made us wait all night for.
I'm sorry, guys.
Hey, late to never, I always say, right?
I had to do it.
All right, we'll work our way backwards. You got any honorables?
Yeah. Tommy Karavik from Seventh Wonder.
Love it.
Probably the golden voice of metal. Is totally incredible. He could be a singer easily.
Yep.
Also from that band that will not be mentioned.
Yes.
Einar Solberg from Leprous.
Oh, he's good too. Yeah.
The king of falsetto. I mean, the guy, incredible. Andre Matos from Angra, tons of character, big charisma. Like you guys said, Mike Patton and Steve Walsh, and Daniel Gildenlow from Pain of Salvation.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
He would easily be in my top 5 if I still listen to them like I used to. Back then, he was like my guy, but I've really fallen away from them, so he ended up honorable mention. A great singer though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hell yeah. Nice guy too. Anthony.
I have one honorable mention here. Annie Haslam, Annie in Wonderland from 1970, I think 77. As Chuck said, I mean, very angelic, beautiful voice, has that Renaissance vibe, so Renaissance-y that Blackmore's Night, which you do not like, Peter, did a cover of Renaissance Ocean Gypsy, which is actually glorious. As Chuck said, you know, best female vocalist, probably, at least for me. I mean, just has that vibe. And then another honorable mention, I wish I should have brought one of his records, Steve Hillage. Not a great singer, but when you want that spacey quality, his voice fits it perfectly, and that guitar playing is just cosmic.
Yeah. I will say, let me clarify, I don't dislike Blackmore's Night. I don't love them, but I like some of their stuff. I don't know. It's a little too folky for me.
Fair.
It's not that I want to hear Blackmore playing, but he's my guy. But I will. Candace, though, I mean, she can sing and she's absolutely gorgeous. So yeah,
very much.
There is that. But yeah, I don't reach for Blackmore's Night that often. It's okay. I like some of the stuff.
They're the type of band where you actually go and enjoy them live. I don't listen
That's
to
what
a lot
everybody
of
says.
Geezer, and I've seen it, and you ought to see the people they dress in the garb. It's nuts.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they even know who Richie Blackmore really is.
Who knows?
Oh man.
You never know. All right, Stephen, you got any honorables?
Well, sometimes I wonder if Richie Blackmore knows who Richie Blackmore is, but that's really entirely. Honorable mentions, yeah, I've got a few. I think by law, and probably to stop whores arriving at my door any second now, I've mentioned Steve Hogarth. So I have to mention, and you say him better than I do, Peter, so I'm about to talk about Fish.
Got to mention Fish.
Yeah, mention Fish, and I'll highlight you.
F-E-S-C-H, Fish.
Fish.
There you go. All right.
And I'll probably highlight Weltschmerz as probably someone that, because he's a storyteller and he just does a great job of that. I've got a soft spot for Rob Soden or Souden, who was in Arena for about 10
Arena.
I just love his vocal style. I've got a sneaking suspicion, seeing as all of their singers kind of do the same sort of thing, that somebody else writes vocal melodies. However, I think he's done them best, and I just love the Contagion album, as I've said many a time on many shows. John Mitchell, he's not a great singer, but he tells great stories, and I really liked his work.
But he's a great guitarist. Oh, yeah, man.
Isn't he just? But I really like his vocals with what he's doing himself, Lonely Robot. He's a sort of, just another kind of, storyteller more than anything else. I probably should mention Stephen Wilson, because I do and everything, but he didn't really factor in this for me. I love his music, but vocally it fits with what he does perfectly, but maybe not in that sense. But Marius Duda from Riverside, I just think how anyone can sound quite as dowdy and unhappy and melancholic and a bit languid and still be captivating, I don't really know, but he does, and I absolutely adore his vocal.
We're not talking about Roger Waters here now.
To be fair, Roger makes him look happy, so I'll let him off. And Christina Booth, Magenta, is another one that really
beautiful singer
for me as well. Arguably for me anyway, up there is one of the best female singers that we've got out there. So yeah, lots and lots of honorable mentions. We could all go on and on, but yeah, some great stuff there.
Yeah, I know. I got a million of them too. So the guy that really pained me that I couldn't fit into my top 5, because I really love his voice a lot, and I have for a long time. Neil Morse, love his vocals. So he would have been my number 6.
June.
I got guys like Greg Lake and Geddy Lee is up there, John Anderson, Fesh, Derek Shulman from Gentle Giant.
Yes. Kerry Kinnear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Kerry Minier.
Yeah, both of them. I also had Ray Alder and John Arch in my honorables. Andy Kuntz from Van den Plas. Really good. Damian Wilson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Paul Manzi. Andy Haslam.
Soft spot for him.
Peter Nichols, I like quite a bit. I might have included him in my top 5, this guy, but I consider him more of a metal singer, and that's Russell Allen.
So I like Russell Allen. A nice operatic voice.
Yeah, he's really, really good. I had Michael Sadler, Gary Brooker from Procol Harum, Michael Robinson from Supertramp, and I had Peter Hamill. And one guy that nobody mentioned, I had Annie as well. Nobody mentioned David Gilmour today.
Anthony, shame.
I'm trying to change it. I don't want to be the same. You know who I was going to mention, Pete, that I'd probably be in my top 5 is nobody mentioned is Roy Albright from Nectar.
Oh, yeah.
I thought about him too, but he was more so like he was not that he was a bad singer. He was actually a pretty good singer, but they always sang in unison. It always sounded like they were singing from church.
I mean, Remember the Future is epic.
Love that song. Love that album. Matter of fact, I actually had that, and then I just put it away.
Well, Chuck, bring it back out.
I guess I'm gonna have to.
Actually, what I'm really shocked at, Anthony, that you didn't have the singer from Bonko in your list.
Oh gosh.
No Italian prog for you today? Come on.
I did a couple.
Yeah, I considered that because I think, well, he was terrific, and I always liked the guy from PFM as well. So, but there's just so many. We can go on and on and on. Right? So cool. All right. Well, there you have it, everybody. Our favorite progressive rock and metal singers, vocalists of all time. You got 5 cool choices from each of us and a lot of honorable mentions. So everybody in the comments below, please list your favorites. All right. Remember, there's no right or wrong answer here. There's a lot of great choices, because just because we didn't mention maybe your favorites doesn't mean you can't mention them below. So please do so. And I want to thank everybody for doing this little bit of homework tonight. I want to thank Steven Reid for staying up really late with us. He's going to go Betty bye as soon as we click the stop button on this. You'll be seeing Steven this weekend, along with myself. We are going to be ranking the albums of Frost, as well as the band he just mentioned, Riverside. So that's coming up this weekend. So stay tuned for that. And of course, as always, Anthony, Chuck, and George from the A-Team. Thanks everybody for watching. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Thanks for watching. For Steven Reid, Anthony Ferraro, George Lamie, and Chuck Alvarez, I am Pete Pardo. Good night, everybody. See you soon.
Good night, guys.
See you.